circumstances. I know that there are strong feelings around this, but I do hope that we have been able to hold these debates in a very thoughtful way and in a considered way. And we have just an hour in order to be able to debate these Lord's amendments, and I want to ensure that all members can put their motions, and on that basis, Mr. Speaker, I move the House Executive.
The question is that this House agrees with the Lords in their Amendment 1. Sir William Cash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I completely repudiate the remarks of the Right Honourable Lady. The reality is that this whole constitutional outrage is like tossing a hand grenade into our constitutional arrangements. It is one of the most outrageous examples, given the absolute vital importance of the vote that was taken by the British people, the result of that referendum, and this is a deliberate attempt to undermine it, and any attempt to say otherwise is just simply a total misrepresentation of the facts. That this bill will not compel the Prime Minister to do anything she doesn't want to do anyway, which is to ask for an extension until the 30th of June, assuming the resolution of the House on Tuesday does keep the 30th of June date. The bill does not compel her to agree to an extension to a date different from that if offered by the European Council, nor if offered with conditions, which, by the way, Mr. Speaker, can raise some very serious legal questions which haven't yet been followed through to their ultimate conclusion. Hence, if she does lead to a longer extension, it will be by the Prime Minister's own voluntary act, and not as a result of compulsion by a Remain-dominated Parliament, which is what it is. I have said repeatedly, Mr. Speaker, during these proceedings, that we have a system of parliamentary government, not government by Parliament. This is a complete reversal of that position. It is a constitutional outrage. The further point, Mr. Speaker, is this, that with regard to the question of European elections, which is another amendment which is on the order paper, I would just read out the amendment, the new clause in my name, which is as follows. No extension of the period under Article 53 of the Treaty on European Union may be agreed by the Prime Minister if, as a result, the United Kingdom would be required to hold elections to the European Parliament. And I know there are many, many people all up and down the country who would totally support that proposition. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, the reality is that on Thursday last week I had a similar amendment on the order paper, and I will tell the House that, in fact, I was informed, although it had been selected, that number 10 had given instructions to vote against. The government were going to vote against this amendment, despite the fact, Mr. Speaker, that this was meant to be government policy. All over the country there is a firestorm about the fact that we could be involved in European elections. There are people who are leaving their own parties over this because they are so completely infuriated by the fact that the arrangements which are under consideration here could lead us to be involved in this absolutely insane idea of our being involved in European elections. The turnout in European elections is derisory. The European Parliament itself is derisory. There is absolutely no reason on earth why we should be involved in them. And therefore, that is why I have put down this following new clause. I will indeed give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
Suggestion to the right Honourable Gentleman, why doesn't he offer himself forward as a candidate and make it all the more exciting?
I must admit that if I were to, there'd be quite a lot of fireworks outside in the European Parliament, I can assure you of that. But I have no doubt whatsoever that what they are doing by creating circumstances in which the European elections could take place is not only to undermine the vote that was taken in June of 2016, but in addition to that, to humiliate this country by virtue of the fact, Mr. Speaker, that this is being effectively created by our subjugation to the European Union, by our crawling on our hands and knees as a government to the European Council. This is something imposed upon them. And the idea that we should be put in a position not only of subjugation, but also that in terms of the letter the Prime Minister wrote on the 5th of April, which is a begging letter to the European Council, that we are effectively giving ourselves over to the European Union, which is a humiliation to this country, and under no circumstances whatever should we have allowed this ever to happen. I will give way.
I thank the Honourable Gentleman for giving way, but does he not agree with me that words such as humiliation, submission, begging, traitors, hang them, fires, are not appropriate words to be having in these types of debates?
They most emphatically are, because unlike what's been going on in this House, which is a perversion and a distortion of our constitutional arrangements, the very essence of our position is to defend democracy, to defend the vote that was taken by the British people, to stand up for the repeal of the 1972 Act, which was passed and is the law of the land. And that is where we are right now. Section 1 of the Withdrawal Act 2018 says the European Communities Act 1972 will be repealed on exit day. All this does is to move exit day. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, the exit day itself moves, if it ever does, in lockstep with the repeal of the 1972 Act. Unless somebody is prepared to get up and to tell me that they intend to repeal the repeal of the 1972 Act, we are still going to be repealing that Act. And I think that's something which is completely lost on the members opposite. There are many other things I would like to say about this wretched bill, this abomination, but I will also say I think that the manner in which it has been done is a constitutional violation. It is not a technical innovation, as some people try to pretend. It is a constitutional revolution. It is, as I said before, a constitutional revolution. And I repeat once more, on that occasion, and I remember, Mr. Speaker, you referring to a precedent of 1604, as I said the other day, in the mid-1650s, Oliver Cromwell came to this House in circumstances where the House of Commons had turned itself into a rabble, and he was so furious with it, he said, "You have been here too long for anything useful you may have done." Yes, and that is exactly that is an accusation.
Order. I know that the honourable gentleman is more than capable of looking after himself, so there's no disrespect to him, but the honourable gentleman must be heard, and he will be heard. Sir William Cash.
And so he will, Mr. Speaker. "Depart, I say," he said, "in the name of God, go." And as far as I'm concerned, that applies to a very many members of Parliament who reversed their votes, and to members of Parliament who have repudiated the vote of the British people, have denied our democracy.
In point of order.